Welcome to the New Orleans Television Internet Work. And we are starting a series of we're calling PSAs to inform our watching audience the new programs if they're not familiar with it and the future programs that will be on the New Orleans Television Internet Work. Um, Under the title R Revue, which is our channel on YouTube as well, we developed a series of programs based on originally on the culture of New Orleans, but that same culture is prevalent anywhere in the world. So we came up with the very first show, the flag show, the creation was the one looking behind, you'll see it closer in a minute, called Restaurant Revue. As explained in our overall PSA about the network, this was the creation of the company production name as well as the first show. The red star ant is our logo, and it was kind of a English term to represent the word restaurant. Restaurant, and it's a red star ant restaurant. Anyway, enough on that. However, we soon grew to start additional creations. So that's why all of our shows are under the production R Revue. And I say all, most. Several of the shows that are under the production, the first letter R will be with a different word indicating what the topic is. All right, we don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Let's just first of all take a look up close of what the logo will look like. Okay, so as I said before, this will be an ant. People have called it all kinds of things with a red star on it. And then two ways. Originally, the distinction was the ant is always holding something relating to the restaurant. Excuse me, to the restaurant show or whatever show is being shown. So this particular show relating to a restaurant has a beautiful silver covered dish, which usually has a roast or something edible underneath that is being presented to the table. We have now come up with the concept I guess, because of visual impairment and also to make a further distinction by coloring the background. So naturally, the restaurant review show will be a red background, but you can soon learn if you want a particular show to look for the color, memorize the color. We'll see each one will identify it separately. So you'll know if you don't remember the name of the show, I want the one with the ant on the blue background, yellow, red, and that'll bring the show that you want. Okay, so that's just hopefully it's got a little visual pop, a double reminder of what this particular show main focus will be. I mentioned this was the original show. This started back in the year 2000, long ago and far away, and really in another world. At that time, I introduced this show to, let me bring you back to me. So there we go. We introduced the show to our cable local network, which meant the viewing audience and the topics would be predominantly in New Orleans, Louisiana, from which we emanate, that general territory. There was no need bringing restaurants too far out of the way because our residents might not want to make that trip unless they were just doing the trip for a weekend excursion or something like that. So our predominant audience was strictly in the New Orleans area. That changed after 15 years. So I'm a slow learner, I guess. But the reason why during those 15 years we started developing and creating the other shows. So that made more variety for the audience. And again, particular to New Orleans. But after that, I left the station and went to our first internet station, which was predominantly focused on audio blogging, whatever that terminology. And then we kind of asked people to be more creative. And some way we relaunched the existing shows that we had on cable television. The big advantage, of course, we had to start over our audience, but the big advantage is our exposure and our audience grew because now, and our topic, because now we've been able to include the entire world. So not only is it an advantage that we get great exposure, but we expose our topics to the world and we involve them in regard, like in restaurants. We know, and chefs, we no longer have to do New Orleans restaurants. We can now do restaurants and chefs around the world. And they will come to you live, just like I'm doing now, side by side with me. And the purpose of the show, or the function of the show, would be to see and hear the chef and see and hear him or her describe the dishes. Now, we don't, it's not a, the big thing here, it's not a cooking show. So you, and I know that's a tremendous, tremendous interest in society to be able to see these cooking shows, and presumably under the idea of not only seeing the personality, which I think is more important on those shows, than the actual dish in their challenges, which you may or may not emulate, or on your local TV, like our local channels give a chef almost every day a chance, if they're working for a charity, to cook one dish, a 5 minute thing, and they can show where they are and what that one dish is. My focus and my vision was, in those days, the chefs were kept, I won't say in the closet, but in the closet of the kitchen. You very rarely knew who the chef was or chefs were. So I saw that one day it would be necessary for the chef to meet with his public, his diners, excuse me. And I also saw, what better way, if I'm not going to do a cooking show, what better way than you, the audience, hearing and watching the chef describe his or her dish? What better? Who's going to be able to describe it better? Certainly not me. And all I do is put my subjective interpretation on it, or any other critic, really. So this is what I saw as a situation, that why not bring the creator, whether it's this or one of the other topics we'll talk about, and let them talk to you directly and show you what they've created for you either to eat here in the restaurant or in their restaurant. And also promote the restaurants. New Orleans has now become a tremendous destination city because food is so important. We have the old adage, and you may have heard, I don't know if used in conjunction with us, but some people eat to live. New Orleans lives to eat. And for the good or the bad of it, it has both. It's very, very true. We're a small urban town nowadays, post Katrina, half our population. And yet we have a proliferation of restaurants equal, if not exceeding, most of the larger urban food centers here in our United States. So that's a great tribute to us. As I mentioned, the first 15 years, we focused only on New Orleans chefs and restaurants. So rather than, and at that time, I've forgotten how many we had, but what we envisioned, since we had everyone, some of our other local critics who did shows on radio, would explore the existing, the well-known restaurants. I decided, here's another difference in our show. Not a cooking show, not going after the people that are already known to very well, whether it's known locally or nationally, but to give a chance to aspiring new chefs and or restaurants. So my credo was 1 day to 1 year old. If you met those parameters, you were eligible to be on our show. So that is the way we were able to keep up a weekly show for 15 years and never repeat. The only time we repeated is because it was a live show and the chef had to come into the station. If something happened at the restaurant, then they would have to, of course, skip, and we would play one of our archival shows. So those were the times, or we did a special thing at the end of the year, but every week was a new restaurant. So this gave a chance to anyone in New Orleans, because we're such a foodie city, to keep trying, because everybody loves to be the first there, to be able to tell their friends and say, oh, I've eaten it, da, 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 da. The other advantage of New Orleans is that not only do we have the multiplicity of restaurants, it's at all levels. And we wanted to bring that to you. Again, we were not only bringing fine dine upscale. Of course, that's our preference, But at the same time, we're bringing it all the way down to the mom and pop shop, to the food trucks. To the only things we and we still do is buffets, cafeterias, that franchises, because that style is really not dependent on the quality of the chef. It is dependent on them following a precise formula, and every restaurant is the same. We like the variety, even if these mom and pop shops are doing the same menu, if you want to call it, as a very popular franchise or fast food. They're doing it better. They're putting their 2 cents in New Orleans. That's the important thing. The lanyap, what we call the 2 cents, the special seasoning that either they create themselves or just happen to know about. Anyway, that's what we're bringing to the audience. Now, when we went to the internet for the last 2 years, up through 16 and 17, excuse me, we decided, well, because we need to still distinguish between the New Orleans shows and these others. So we created two subsets. I'm not going to give you the names yet, but they will have a different name to distinguish them, and different logos. And one will involve chefs in the United States, including Louisiana, but outside the purvey of the New Orleans area, or the greater New Orleans area. The other one will be worldwide. And just as a plug, if you want to see some of these shows, all of my shows are not all, not 15 years of TV, maybe just a year. Didn't want to show you when I was beautiful, svelte, full head hair. You don't want to recognize that person. That was a real person. This is what you're looking at today. I have about a year and a half, 100 plus shows of TV, Restaurant Revue. If you go to my channel, REVUE, hopefully you'll subscribe to the pretty little old picture of me, my red shirt, and my faux bloody bull, which I drink. And on that, if you go under the tab videos, I believe, I could get this confused, but there's only 2 tabs you need to bother with. It will bring up the shows of Restaurant Revue that were in the New Orleans area. Okay. If you choose playlist, which is the other tab category, you will then see the shows relating to restaurant and chefs and others, but around the world. So if you want to get a glimpse on some, we had some shows, chefs from England, Prague, I've forgotten all the categories. I can't see their name. Again, it was only 2 years, and we rotated. It was one show. We rotated the other shows, so it's not going to be as prolific as the first TV. Boring you. Okay, now we have the advantage of both. So we will still use the 3 names or logos for the 3 shows. So you may make a distinction. If you only want to see worldwide chefs, you will recognize that chefs, the name of the show, as well as the logo. Same thing for USA chefs. And of course, here what we talk about, Restaurant Revue, our New Orleans chefs and restaurants. Okay, as I said, the big difference is not a cooking show. Okay, so don't be disappointed. You can be disappointed, but realizing what we want, that way you'll know what our focus is, and hopefully appreciate such. Okay, let's see what else we need to tell you. How bad I am here with reading. The key here is that the format of the show is the chef will be on live, and we will go through pictures of his or her restaurant, again, and the digital pictures of each close-up dish, which he or she will describe, main ingredients and presentation, etc. So you'll get a good understanding. Now, I'm jumping ahead. In the TV and the internet, we were allowed to have callers. So you could call and speak to the chef, ask a question. We're working on our technology now. You could call now and definitely be online, but unless your phone, and I don't know how to do this technically, but I'll try and learn for you. Unless your phone, if you're calling on a phone and I say calling, following our link, if you want to, you send us a comment and we will link you up. And then you can call us but you will not be, when I say callers, but both your picture and your audio and video. If you don't want that, you have to be able to turn the camera off on your phone or whatever device if you're coming through the PC or the laptop. Again, today's world is not so much a caller world. So I recognize that old phone. Like me, I still like the phone. But today's phone is used as a texting device. Everyone, all levels. And of course, they put pictures, emojis, realizing text gets a little boring. But the key here is and they call them text or chat comments. And what you will be seeing, now you won't be seeing them on screen unless we individually put them. So what happens is when we start getting some comments and we think they're really relevant, and if they're not a lot, it's easy for us to put them on so you all can see the text across the bottom of the screen. Okay. And hopefully we'll address that, especially if it's a question. If we only get a few like today, then it's not worth it to put those comments up. But the key there is that no matter which platform you're watching, because remember, as we said, we simultaneously broadcast on YouTube under the channel R Revue, and under one of my 3 Facebook accounts, the easiest and the hardest, under my name, Bob Bockelman. And you see the spelling down there. It's a little difficult, but hopefully you can find me. The other 2 channels, one relates to my dinner club, and the other relates to just the network. We don't presently are able to hook up because I think that's the way the logistics of our software. But if you watch on it and you decide to make a comment on your phone, using your phone or your computer, it's keyboard, it will come in here no matter which platform you're working on or watching on. And as I said, they will just keep scrolling up, and we'll endeavor to put some on for you so you can see the people, what they're saying and what they're asking. And hopefully the chef and I will address, if there's a question, to the best information. Hopefully he'll bring out sometimes they forget to bring out the restaurant's hours or days closed, or just geographic or statistical information or whatever that really is important if you're interested in going to that restaurant, especially if it's like a breakfast only place or vice versa. Okay. I think that's just about, I don't want to take too much more of your time. As we said, phone callers will be coming in later on where you'll dial a number. We will add that, but not at this present time. You have to go through the phone and through our software by receiving a code that we send you and letting us, and then turning your camera off if you don't want to be seen, and we will just hear your comments. So we love callers. Okay, lastly, schedule. Since we're a fledgling channel, just really starting tonight, officially starting next week on February, we are presently determining how the schedule will look like. We right now are starting with evening broadcast, okay? Because we know primary people usually watch those after work or whatever, the evening channel, even though we're showing all over the world. What we will do for you, that will be the live broadcast. And of course, we will replay. Now that we're early, we'll replay it several times. But at any time, that's the advantage of the internet. You go to YouTube, not so much Facebook, but you go to YouTube, and all of our shows will be there archived. So you can see it at any time, whether you come home, midnight, or you're a night person. You can see a recent broadcast of Facebook within, I think they keep it 7 days at the most, maybe a couple of days. So you have to watch. If you want to see the immediate rebroadcast on Facebook, you have to do that. But it's always easy to check the YouTube channel anytime you want, or if we do a replay during that week of that original broadcast, which causes us to have to do it manually. So an old person forgets to do those things. So you have to forgive me. Anyway, we will publish the schedule. Even right now, it's very limited. We're testing different time periods and days. As I mentioned, next week, starting next, I believe it's Tuesday night, the second day of the month, second weekday of the month. I know we have one show. I won't say what it is. I forgot We have something on Monday. Oh, enough of that. Anyway, we will always post on our platforms what the schedule is as it increases. So you'll know, hey, the restaurant show is on a certain day and a certain time. If I want to see it live, if I can't because I work, we understand. But this is just another check. Not only will you know which show by the color or the whatever the ant is holding, but you'll also know in advance if you can't see the live show when you can see it on a regular basis if you are available, and then go to the other two options to see it on a replay. Okay, hopefully I've addressed all the points. We will be doing this thing, maybe not as long. This was the first one on. I never did do this for you. I wanted to show you. There you go. Me Smile and the Big Ant. I was supposed to share with you. I've been mainly showing myself. So once again, this is what and notice that part of the ant and all is behind me, the backdrop. Unfortunately, at the present time, we haven't been able to scale down the ant. We eventually would love it to be what they call tiles. It'd be miniature ones running across the entire background as a tile, like a tile in your home, restaurant, kitchen, or whatever. But right now we have to, and we're trying to minimize it further so you can see the ant in its full, just like you do in the other situation. Maybe hopefully a little bit to the right of my shoulder, because we have to leave another space, remember, for the chef or the other guest so that they'll get equal time in our discussion. Okay, until then, I think it's best that, let me go back to us, to me. Yes. Thank you again very much. Also, I didn't mention, if you notice up in the right-hand corner of your screen, you will see that is, and it's not done in color, that is the original logo. That is our brand, our review. So we will show that on all of our programs up in that right corner. That's our brand. Okay. If we have more information, we'll tell you, of course. Stay tuned for the other PSAs, and we look forward to you enjoying the channel. Because remember, we're all about education, entertainment, and that fun word, fun. Okay. Bye. Great seeing you. Bye.